I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I've been in a number of different industries, whether it was media, startup technology, the auction world.
All right, welcome to another episode of The Collective Perspective. I'm here with my good friend and fellow entrepreneur, Noah. Noah, my man, why don't you just give a little background on yourself and the business and what you're up to today?
Absolutely. I'm Noah Wunsch. It's nice to see everybody, though, of course, this is recorded. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I've been in a number of different industries, whether it was media, startup technology, the auction world, and now I run a beverage company called Ruby Hibiscus Water, which is hard to see in that light. Let's see. There we go. Well,
There you go.
There it is.
Yep.
Which is a line of organic hibiscus beverages.
Nice, man. So I wanted to ask you, first and foremost, every time I talk about businesses or starting a new business, you see it on Shark Tank, you see it on everywhere. People are like, stay out of the beverage business. That's like the number one thing that I always hear. Obviously, you didn't pay any attention to that. So
Nope.
tell me, man, why, out of all your smarts and your history of what you've been doing, why go into the beverage business?
That's a great question, and I ask myself that every single day, Walt. I can tell you it's completely true. Like, it's fully true. This is the hardest business I've ever been in. I've been in a number of different industries, and I like leading with curiosity. That was part of what was so appealing about beverage and CPG going into it, that it was a new challenge for me, no question. But I do ask myself a lot, if I had known how hard this is, would I have done it? And it's not one of those ones where, like, every founder's like, I still would have done it. I don't know. Like, I really sincerely don't know. If I was in a time machine and I Doc Browned it and I was like, Noah, you have to understand, it's literally going to be hell. I don't know if I would have done it. It's really difficult. And that's coming from someone who's doing very well for a first-year beverage company. Like, it is actually hell, Walt. So yeah. Cheers. Cheers to that. Huh?
Cheers to all the entrepreneurs out there. It's actually hell.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I, to your point, by the way, I had a conversation with a guy who is much older. He'd been in beverage forever. And it was the first conversation I had with someone in the space. And I walked him through the idea, and he kind of paused, and he's like, no, this is a dumb idea. Don't do this. This is a very bad idea. You're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to be more stressed than you've ever been in your life. You're too smart to do this. Please do not do this, Noah. And I was like, I know what he's doing. He's doing one of those things where, like, he'll knock me down, and if I still need to do it, it's a good thing. But I don't think he was. I think he was just trying to be a godsend, and I was too stupid to listen.
Wow. All right. Yeah. It's too stupid to listen. However, you've got a new product in your hand. This is an extension line, right?
Yeah. Ruby,
so something's got to be going pretty good to get yourself an extension line, unless you're just digging yourself into a hole. But what has been successful? What has been the keys to success to a fact that you went from, just a couple of your products, which I love, to an extension line? Like, what's been successful for you that you're expanding already?
I mean, consumers. Like, the number one thing for us is listen to your customers. And we put ourselves in a position from a marketing perspective to be able to do that. Our number one focus for marketing is demoing, period. Like, we do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of demos, and we do that as internal stakeholders. I have 2 demos out in the field this week myself. And I think a lot of people during the pandemic were like, demos are dead. We're going to take a hold. What I see is that consumers really want demo. They want that return to the normal, so to speak, but they also will tell you exactly what they think of your product. So, the 2 things that we always heard the most in the field was, when we were demoing the unsweetened hibiscus, which is a tart product. There's no sugar in it, but it's got this beautiful pomegranate dry cherry flavor to it. For some people, it was too tart. And they were like, we want something differentiated and a little more accessible. So we created 2 more still SKUs, which are our hibiscus ginger cherry and our hibiscus pomegranate lime. But the thing we heard even more than we want a little more sweetness is this would be really good with some bubbles. And as soon as I tried one of the R&Ds off of the line, yeah, I mean, like, it was kind of undeniable. Like, this is a completely differentiated product that really needs to exist.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I actually, one, I'm a fan of the product. I like to mix it with some of my alcohol. I'd also like, I would take some of the unsweetened, and I would take like some flavored seltzers
Yeah.
and just add like a little kind of dash, and just it gives a little bit of sweetness to it and a little bit of bubble. So, that's really, really exciting. How's the new line? It's pretty new, right? How's it going so far?
I mean, it's literally, I think it's maybe 2.5 weeks old at this
Oh,
point.
wow. Yeah.
And it's smashing it. I mean, we launched on Amazon with it too. For multiple days, we were the number 1, 2, and 3 top new release in sparkling.
Wow.
In the field, we're seeing the velocities jump. The can, from a branding perspective, kind of matches the beverage itself with just maximalism, really loud, looks completely differentiated.
Yeah.
So we feel like we've got something really special with this product. And so far, based on what we're seeing in the market, the consumers are agreeing.
Wow. So, I mean, you mentioned, the consumers and the pandemic a little bit. What was the last 2 years for you like during a pandemic, small business, entering the beverage business? How did you navigate that, my man?
It's a great question. It's a lot of learning on the go. Like, the
Yeah.
cool thing is that if you can make it a year, 2 years, 3 years during a pandemic, you're in a pretty good place for success because you've literally been through potentially the worst time a business could be launching. So the tenacity definitely sets you up for what is, again, a really, really hard industry.
Yeah.
But it also means that you have to think on your feet. So, like, when we did launch out, as an example, we had Whole Foods pick us up pre-launch. In demos were not allowed at that time.
Right.
So you have to ask yourself, how am I going to create consumer awareness when I'm not allowed to demo and market, and people don't know my brand? I'm a completely new brand. Why is someone going to pick up Ruby instead of something else? So what we did was we actually did what we called digital demoing. We would look at the geotagged locations of every single Whole Foods location in the Northeast, and people were tagging what they would buy at Whole Foods based on the location they were in. So if we saw someone post a picture of them buying a coconut water, we would DM them on Instagram and say, we want to send you a coupon to pick up a free bottle of Ruby at your local Whole Foods. And that was really successful for us. But would we have had the mindset to do that had we not been a pandemic?
Right.
No. But we were creating digital social relationships that drove organic velocity that way.
Wow. Wow. That's super interesting, man. Obviously that went very well for you and it's taken to where you are now. We had some good upside, obviously. So tell me about the downsides, man. Like, you said if you could Doc Brown it, go back in time and maybe not do this again. Why would you not do it again? We talked some ups. What are some of the downs that you've been facing over the last few years?
Oh my God! I mean, all of it. By the way, this is not unique to beverage. Like, I talk to a lot of founders, and by the way, when we talk about what the best part of this is, like, the network of founders and the community, especially in CPG, is unlike anything I've experienced in any other industry I've been in. Everyone is unbelievably gracious. We're all there for each other as a support system, which is really rewarding, and I've made some really great friends. But when we talk about it, I'd say, like, the highs are ephemeral. You get a quick second to really appreciate something that's gone well, and the lows are eternal. Like, they're just, it's like 90% sitting in the slog, in 10% where you just kind of like rocket out of the slog and then completely fall back to the slog.
Right. Yeah.
So it's tough, man. I mean, I could literally tell you the difficulties of every single aspect.
Yeah.
Marketing, operations, sales, all of it. It's really, really difficult, but you learn every single day. And that, again, for someone who loves to lead with curiosity, that's unbelievably rewarding, even with the difficulties.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you get these little, like, dopamine hits. You get these little spikes of adrenaline. You're like, this is it, I'm crushing it. And then, then you look for that
whacked in the head.
And that spike could be 8 minutes from now, or 4 days from now, or 2 weeks from now, but you still get it. And I try to tell some entrepreneurs too. I'm like, it's going to just be a lot of lows, but it's that one hit you get is like, oh, this is why I'm doing it. And it keeps you going for the next couple of weeks, or month or so.
100%. I look, when I talk to young founders, I'm like, if you don't have to do this, don't do this. Like, it's like, and look, a lot of, again, founders told me that, and like, some people may hear that and they might take a second and think, you know what, I don't need to do this. I won't. And I hope that's helpful. But most of the founders I meet with, they have that drive where it's like, no, I really do need to do this. And if you have that drive, like you should. But if if you're wavering, it's like, don't just, there's so many things to do with your life.
You're either all in or all out. Like don't
100%.
Don't dip your dip your toes to get a little sense, but then you're either committing or not committing. Yeah, I get it. So I've seen you at, we work with a lot of tequila brands at the Bowery Collective. I've seen you do some partnerships with some tequila brands. Are you continuing to utilize your product as a mixer? Was it your intention when you started this product to use as a mixer, or is this just something that you made and then you're like, oh, this is actually good with whiskey, this is good with tequila? How are you partnering with some of the alcohol brands?
Yeah, I don't think the intent was for it to be used as much as a mixer as it is, which I'm all for. Again, like the consumers tell you what your product market fit is. You don't get to tell the consumer that. Yeah. That being said, people are also drinking it ready to drink, which I appreciate. But while I was R&Ding, when I was making Ruby at home, just literally as a bench top, my favorite cocktail was some Ruby, a little pomegranate palm juice, mezcal, and a spritz of lime. So like even early days, I was just like, this is a crazy good mixer. But as we actually developed it and brought it into field, hearing from consumers, like I'm not a vodka drinker. I don't like vodka. But people hitting me up being like, this is cranberry vodka without the 32 grams of sugar and without the hangover.
Right.
Like and then you try it and you're like, oh my God, that is exactly what this is. And that's a really interesting opportunity. So starting to experiment with them was a lot of fun. And then we as a business are really focused on doing really great events and building community through those events. And, part of how you do great events is, probably better than anyone in the world, Walt, is with some booze, like make some great drinks. So it's been very kind of organic and holistic in that sense.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's a great mixer, man. So congratulations on that. I've made it with some bourbon. I've made it with a lot of tequila. And it's super, super cool. So man, what is, we've known each other for, I don't know, 14 years now, something crazy.
15 years now.
Who's counting? Who's counting
crazy,
though?
Man. Oh,
so I've obviously known you for a while. I've seen your drive. I've seen, your smarts, man, but like, you've always seemed to be getting into like a new business, ever since I've known you. Like, where does this kind of come from? Like, where does your drive come from? Where does your entrepreneurship come from? Is it self-made, a little bit of the family? Talk to me about where you get this entrepreneurial spirit from.
It's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer. I can tell you again, like I've probably a lot of it just comes from insecurity. Like it's probably, I take a step back and I'm like, well, it probably has to do with the fact that I didn't go to an Ivy League school and like I was kind of a dumb growing up. So like I have a chip on my shoulder and I need to prove things to people.
There you go.
Like, wow, that's a really honest answer. So that's definitely 100% one of it. Like I was not good in school growing up. And I think at some point I realized that learning is kind of interesting and doing stuff is kind of great. And, learning more about all these things can be really fulfilling. And I think I might have been actually fortunate to learn that later in life because that's when I could really, respect and appreciate it. But my family, my great-grandfather moved to the United States as an Austrian Jew in the 19-teens. And he was an entrepreneur. He started what has become a family business for the family. And we have 4 generations in the family business now, which is really, most family businesses do not last past the 3rd generation. So we're very proud of what we've been able to do that way. I have no interest in joining it. I'm not that 4th generation. But I think it's been core to our spirit that, there are challenges out there and it's worth seeing if you can take them on,
Yeah. So no good grades in school for you?
No, I had like a D+ in geometry. I think I had good grades in English, maybe. But no, I was a very bad student.
Got it. So what do you, it's interesting because, you said you didn't go to the Ivy League school. but you've kind of got this entrepreneurial blood, family kind of going. Do you think, kind of talking to like the younger generation kind of coming up, I mean, schools are just seem to be getting more and more expensive. It's kind of ridiculous at this point. Is it worth it to go to school? Like, what would you say to young kids coming out of school or going into college? Like, is there any lesson learned from like your path to say to some of these kids to say, hey, I recommend XYZ over, ABC, or, what's your thoughts?
Kids shouldn't be speaking to me, Walt. Why would I be talking to children? What's the matter with you? What kind of question is that? No, I would never talk about whether you should or you shouldn't go to school. But one of the things that I would always recommend, and we luckily have a great internship program with Ruby. I had an amazing internship program when I was over at Sotheby's Auction House, and I've had terrible internships. So I'm really focused on making sure that if we have younger people working at any company I'm working at, that they have a great experience.
Yeah.
But the number one thing I tell them, and I would continue to tell any young person that reached out, is, find what you're passionate about and go test it out professionally as soon as possible. If you're interested in English and you're 18 years old, go work at a magazine, go work at a literary agency, because you'll be able to start weeding out and identifying areas that you actually really love earlier or hate, and that can kind of push you in different directions. I think getting professional experience and creating a network through those experiences as early as possible is pretty valuable.
That's interesting. And I guess what I want to ask you too is, you mentioned that you're the one out there sampling, founder, CEO. So you're just standing behind a table at Whole Foods sampling?
Yeah. With a Ruby tablecloth, of course.
Yeah. So do you think that's like, I mean, we know a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs, they raise a lot of money, they get a little fancy, they get a nice little office. You seem to be, growing facial hair with your hat on, sampling your product, man. Like, do you think that's one of your keys to success, is that you're out there doing it? I mean, was that a decision that you made when you started? You're like, I'm the one that's going to be pushing this product, I'm the one that's going to be sampling it. Do you have a team in place, or is it just the one-man show, man? Tell me about your team. Yeah. And why are you out there, selling your own product like the way you are?
100%. No, we have a team. There are 5 of us full time now. There's me. There's our chief of staff, who wears a lot of different hats. There's our regional sales manager, director of sales, and our director of operations. And as mentioned, we have interns at any given time. One of the things I always say, and again, like, a lot of these things are personal decisions. They're how you want to lead a company, how you want to manage, how you want to spend your time. I personally will not ask any team members to do anything I wouldn't do myself, period. And that has meant that I will be out at 11 p.m. sometimes unloading pallets with my team members. But a lot of it is, like, this, going back to the overarching narrative of this conversation, this isn't easy. It's a really hard business. And, if I'm going to ask someone to bust their ass, they need to know that I'm going to be busting my ass with them. No question. So that's kind of that's a big part of how I want to lead the company, no question. With the demos, a few things. One, a number of our investors have said, we invest in this company because we know that you can sell this, Noah. And that's true. Like, I do believe that being out there, honing how I sell it on the consumer level also helps me on the corporate level. But, number 3, again, consumer feedback in real time is insane. There's, as a direct consumer business, you're only going to be hearing from customers who have broken packages, who hate your product, who want refunds. You're not going to hear from people most of the time. It's a rarity that someone's going to reach out and just say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I love your product, which is a really rewarding thing to hear. To see both of those things happen in real time, to see a consumer say, I hate this, and here's why, or, oh my God, I love this, have you ever thought about using this as XYZ, it is unbelievably valuable. So I am long on demoing, no question.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense, man. So that's super cool. Congratulations on everything that's been happening so far. I'm sure you're going to leave here and hit the streets of New York.
Yeah.
How do people find the product? Where are you? Tell us where you're distributed everywhere, and how do people, website, Instagram, plug away on where everybody can find the product.
You got it. So our website is www.ruby.fun, as in I'm having fun, because that's what Ruby is for. Our Instagram is Ruby4Fun. Our Twitter is Ruby4Fun. We are available on Amazon, GoPuff, Gorillas, FastAF, direct to consumer, of course. We're available all over the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic. We have distributors who help us out with that. We're available in Central Market in Texas and a few other locations. We're about to launch on the West Coast with Erewhon. And then we're in Chicago with Foxtrot, who's an amazing partner. So we're all over, but we're very focused on regional expansion thoughtfully.
Cool, man. Well, listen, dude, I appreciate your time. It's always good to see your face. And congratulations on everything. And then I hope we can rope you into some of our Arte Agave and Whiskey Washback events, and so we can feature some Ruby and have some fun.
Let's do it. Done.
All right, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Of course, man. You have a good one.
See y'all next time.